Hey, everybody. I'm David Bloom with Next TMT Talks, this here podcast, and my co-founder, Daniel Frankel. On behalf of our partner, Media Play News, every week we sit down for a quick midweek conversation about things that are happening in the business of streaming video and all its many expressions. This week, Dan's got to burn his butt about methodologies and the limited range of those things with Netflix and broadcasters and streamers. And I think we'll jump right in. It was yet another good week for Netflix and streaming, according to Nielsen, and also according to Netflix itself, which is part of the problem. So, talk about what's got you fiddling here, Dan, because you've been writing about this stuff for a very
in my butt.
a burr in your butt,
David.
burr in your saddle. You like cowboy? Yippee tie yay!
Oh, I mean, I've been railing against streaming ratings since time immemorial.
Well, streaming is not a time immemorial thing, so probably at least we'll call it 6 years. How's that?
A while now, correct. And there's two main sources. There's Netflix's Global Top 10, which gives you a snapshot of what just happened a few days ago, the week just ending a few days ago, for their global platform, or most of it. And you get account views and you get minutes viewed, and it's ranked on account views. It's a pretty good indicator of the health of streaming because that's the biggest operator. They have over 80 million customers in the US and 325 million globally, plus.
And a billion, and they say close to a billion
Right.
audience total when you start saying 2.3 or 2.7 people per household and all that. So where I come from, that's a lot.
There's Nielsen, which you get data from, I think, 4 weeks ago, or, it's a month old. That's, the latest data is for stuff that you saw on television a month ago. And it's US based. It's third party, which makes it nice because it's theoretically they're neutral. But there are problems with that too. I mean, Netflix has over 80 million. Paramount has less than that globally. It's not like ABC, NBC, Fox, CBS, and everybody has equal access on their television dial back in the old days. So you're comparing apples to apples.
Well,
Streaming
yeah,
audience.
definitely different pieces of fruit. I mean, I think that's true, but I mean, that's welcome to streaming. We get it in different ways. The subscription rates are different. It's not like the old days when we had cable and everybody was on the box and all that stuff, or we had our rabbit ears, or our parents did, or our grandparents did. But that's just what it is. This is the business. This is why Netflix is valued a lot more than Paramount is. That's why Netflix is a $450 billion company and Paramount's what, 30 market
Well, we
cap?
know what you're right. We know what we know. And it's interesting. I'm reading Eric Grunwald's report in Media Play News. The drug cartel cash heist drama, The Rip, starring Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, remained number one across all Netflix content and on the movie chart for its second week with 40.4 million views across 93 countries. That was for the weekend of January 25th. That's a lot of views. I think that's one of the more successful movies they've had in the last 12 months.
Well, you got a well-executed film directed by a professional director, Joe Carnahan, who knows how to do action films. You got Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, really two of the biggest global stars left in Hollywood, doing a pretty good job in a film that's kind of a throwback to some other things they were in, like The Departed and The Town. So that's a pretty good combo. I could see why they greenlit this thing in the first place. I'm not really surprised. That being said, I'm more interested. But let me just finish. I'm more interested to some extent, not that The Rip is continuing to do well. We kind of saw that coming. I'm fascinated personally that Daniel Craig's last film as James Bond, No Time to Die, featuring the Oscar-winning Billie Eilish song of the same name, which I was just listening to and is fantastic, is ranked number 3 on that list in English language films on Netflix. And it is one of the 25 films that Amazon owns but chose to license and are now on Netflix, getting the Netflix let's grow the audience experience. Like James Bond needs to have its audience grown, but it's like, okay, they got to make money.
I saw that there was a major drop of the MGM Amazon franchise on Netflix last week. What part of the week was that? Was later or Tuesday?
I don't know what day it was, but the fact is it was enough that No Time to Die, a terrific film, perhaps not as good as the first two Daniel Craig films, but a terrific film, is right up there I mean, at number 3, it didn't take long, and some of that is I used to work for MGM back when it was a standalone studio, oh, it was many years ago. Boy, I remember the transition. I was there as Pierce Brosnan was moving out, and they were trying to figure out who it was gonna be, and there wasn't a week that went by that I didn't get a call from some British newspaper saying, "Sportsbook has just had a big drop of money on so and so, Clive Owen, this person or that person, and as the new Bond." Any comments? But I mean, the interest was intense, and it is continues to be intense. They were licensing it back then into special channels in Spain and Tokyo, I think. I mean, it was all over the place. That the interest in the James Bond franchise. So it's fascinating to me. A, it remains strong.
No,
B,
I'm bolstering your point. Here's
yeah,
a title that's been out for a while, and it
yeah,
debuts midweek on the platform, and it ranks number 3.
yeah,
That's an
right.
impressive feat. It's just
Yeah,
the
no marketing
enduring.
needed. No marketing needed. No,
Yeah,
it's
I didn't know it was coming.
yeah, right, right. Boom. And people definitely found it. Anybody that's been watching, like, I don't know, all those films, like not films, but like some of the series, it's The Agent. I mean, there's so many spy things out there. Slow Horses over on Apple TV. I mean, you're going to watch James Bond to find the anti-slow horses and like renew yourself. Oh, yeah. Sometimes you can actually take a bath and look good in a tuxedo, Jackson Lamb. But I guess it's no surprise, but it's interesting that Amazon would even do this, right? Other than the fact that they need to kind of make some money. So there's that.
It is. I mean, it's the biggest platform in America, so you've got to, if you can distribute through it,
In
you
the
know.
world. In the world, as they say on the Viking Cruise Line ads, the biggest
So
platform
Spectre
in
was
the world.
on that list too. Another a Daniel Craig 007 film, right?
Which one?
Spectre, Spectre.
Spectre. Yeah.
When did that
That,
come out?
I don't know, 2019 or something like that. It's been a
So
little
what's
while.
so Daniel Craig is officially retired, correct?
He is done. He's now a Southern bourbon drinking detective on
Sure.
fabulously lucrative stuff. The real issue for Bond has been that for about 3 years after they bought for a lot of money the MGM rights to Bond, which was through United Artists, it was a 50-50 split with the Broccoli family. The Broccoli's very protective of the family business. And even though Amazon paid a very large amount of money, they didn't have control of it, and they couldn't talk Barbara Broccoli and Michael Wilson into budging on who was going to be the next Bond and things like that. They were very protective, and understandably. I mean, literally, this has been their family business for 50 years now, 60 years. I think the first Bond was 63. Dr. No. So they're very protective. So they had to pay another billion to make the Broccoli's go away. Cubby Broccoli's children go away. And they did. And now they finally have control, but it's still been 5 years since the last one. They still haven't named anybody. And we still don't have a date for a film because you kind of need to have a star before you like date something.
Yeah, that's a
So,
tough one to get right. I mean, credit the Broccoli family for one good decision after another. They
yeah.
seem to really.
So I got to tell you, I used to say the greatest job in Hollywood was the person who handled the product placements in the Bond movies. Because you were getting Aston Martins and Tag Heuer watches and Dom Perignon champagne. And I mean, just to drop by and say, hey, here's what we got. I mean, it was nuts. So anyway, that's it.
So looking at the top shows on Netflix, Skyscraper Live, last week's big live event where the young man climbed a skyscraper. Where was that? Hong Kong? Where did he do that?
Taipei,
Okay. It's an
Taiwan.
impressive athletic feat that I
Yeah.
didn't tune in for. Did you?
I did not either. And I believe his wife, for understandable reasons, did
She didn't
not.
watch either?
She couldn't bear to watch, and I certainly understand that because if it doesn't go well, you really don't want to see your husband plummet hundreds of feet to the ground. I, you know, it's a little ghoulish, I think. I mean,
I agree with
before
you.
we went on air here, we were talking about it's a little bit like Evel Knievel back in the 70s. You weren't watching for Evel Knievel to make the jump. You were watching to see him not make the jump. And Yeah, and it was a big deal in American TV in 1975 or whenever it was that he was doing that stuff before he'd broken every bone in his body.
My dad used to I used to watch those events, and most of them were recorded. None of the TV networks wanted to take a chance on that. He was my hero, Evel Knievel, because I was drawn to the leadership of men who hit their book agents with baseball bats and rode motorcycles. And my dad would sit down. I remember we were watching one on a jump on Wide World of Sports. And he said, "Oh,
Mhm.
you're watching Stupid Canupid." You know,
Too big, stupid.
it's his 6-year-old son's hero. And I go, "Yeah, I want to watch him jump this bus." And he goes, "Yeah, I want to watch him crash." So
Right.
yeah, the
Like any
ghouls have
right thinking.
the ghouls have always been there. You're correct, but this was poorly reviewed. Everybody felt that the announcing was kind of shrill. I guess the play-by-play guy was a wrestling commentator.
Yeah, no, who saw that coming? But I mean, beyond that, though, let's just be frank. Okay, after the first, say, 50 floors, what do you have to say? I mean, you got to hype it up somehow to keep people watching for the next 150 floors to go or whatever it was. It's a thousand and something foot tall building. I
Right, and he's
mean,
not like racing anybody. So yeah, it would be
right.
difficult to
How do you inject drama into that? So I think that
well,
that was a limit, and it's ultimately a ghoulish thing that people are doing. Netflix is basically trying a wide range of live events. This is one of the first ones they've done that's international. Now, the one that they were touting a lot that's international is going to be the World Baseball Classic. They have rights in Japan for all 40, what was it, 41, 43 games, whatever it is. And during their earnings call last week, Ted Sarandos was saying, we think it's going to be big. And I think it's right. You've got Shohei Ohtani, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, the pitcher with the Dodgers, two of the biggest stars in baseball, period, both from Japan, leading that team, which will be the host country this time around. I mean, it'll be insane in Japan. And I actually am pretty interested too, because it's turned into a pretty interesting little sports thing. And so the fact that they've got those rights in Japan, that was a smart deal, I think. This one is just let's see if it works, you know? Well, it's just a different thing from everything else. It's something they could buy. It's a one-off. It's not like you're buying a whole season of NFL games, or like in baseball, they only have like opening day for the Yankees and the home run derby at the All-Star game. They didn't buy rights to game of the week or any of that stuff. But I am fascinated. Speaking of buying rights, the 7.7 billion that UFC collects now for 7 years from Paramount Plus and CBS. Well, Paramount, Skydance.
well,
Um, their
speaking of
first their
Paramount,
first their first match was just this last weekend. And a lot of fans who used to paying $80 or whatever for a Rumble
yeah,
got to watch it for the cost of the $8 it costs a month to watch Paramount Plus. And turns out some of them didn't realize, oh, that comes with ads. Who knew?
they're gentle. The streaming ads. I've been putting up with them lately. So one thing I did leave out was Samba, Samba TV. They
Yeah, got to
they
dance
have a
on that.
they have a network of smart TVs which they measure viewership. It's a sampling technology, and their recent ratings are January 12th to 18th, so not as far back as Nielsen. This week they had Landman as the number one show for the week. I know I've been very critical of this show. It's season 2 riding, but
No, you've been critical of this show since time immemorial. Let me
I
just say.
that's not true. I liked the first season. I watched it,
You had some ambivalence about the rants about clean energy, for instance. Shall we?
but what I think is interesting though is they're ranking Landman number 1 on a service that must have 10, 20 million less US viewers versus the RIP or Netflix. The RIP was second. That's why when I see that, I go, how does that work? But so the RIP
Well,
was
one's a movie and one's a series, so that's a little not quite apples and oranges. We'll call it oranges and tangerines thing on stream. So that's one part. Landman has been marketed out for most 2 years, because that week would have been either the second to last episode or the last episode of season 2, which had a lot of preposterous moments in it, but was highly entertaining. My knock on Landman isn't really a knock. It's just like they'll do things like, let's have a giant car crash. Billy Bob is unharmed, but let's have a giant car crash and then get him in a conversation with a god he doesn't believe in. And then you'll never hear another whisper about any of that for the rest of the season. There's a
Yeah,
whole
they're
bunch of stuff like
trying to get into too much truth and depth, and they're kind of all over the place, and there's just too much
it doesn't stand up
emotion.
well critical review. I'll just say that. But if you just along for the oil slicked ride, it's pretty good.
So The Rip was second. His and Hers season 1 on Netflix, number 3.
Another preposterous, by the way, another preposterous setup.
Yeah. So what
You
happens?
got so they got a cop investigating a murder and a woman who happens to be his ex-wife. I think she's a journalist, also extremely interested in the murder. And the dead person may have been formerly a girlfriend of the cop. So why would he be allowed to investigate the crime? Of course, he wouldn't be in any reasonable police department. Not that we have many examples from the federal level to follow it these days. Though I will say that hasn't stopped CBS from renewing an endless supply of NCIS, CIS shows. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like,
we'll get to that. I know you wanted to talk
yeah,
about that. We'll get to that.
yeah. I was like, oh my God. Yeah.
So, number 4, The People We Meet on Vacation, also Netflix. And then you get to The Pit, season 2, which I also have seen a little drop off there. I'm not quite as entertained. But I guess my point is, you've got 5 Netflix shows and 5 shows one from Paramount, one from Prime Video, one from Peacock, and 2 from HBO Max. Season 1 of The
Yeah.
Pit is also included on there. I guess it's the same problem. You've got one giant video service, and it's hard to rank stuff when one pool is so much bigger than the others. It's not like there's parity there and you can put them apples to apples on a ranker.
Well,
So
this is not, I was going to say, this is not like a horse race where you handicap the horses by putting like 5 pounds of extra weight in the saddle of the favorite. That's not how this works. It's like this is biggest wins most. That's kind of network power laws, and that's what we're seeing here. But I will say CBS renewed 10 series this week after renewing 4 last recently. They are Tracker, of course, biggest thing on broadcast TV. Georgia Mandy's First Marriage, which I believe is a spinoff.
it
Matlock,
is.
which is a remake. Elsbeth, which is a double spinoff from The Good Wife. Fire Country, NCIS Origins, NCIS Sydney. Who knew the Naval Criminal Investigative Service was all over Australia? Survivor, the longest running competition in The Amazing Race, which is probably only second to Survivor in its surviving. But then they also previously renewed FBI, Ghosts, the Fire Country spinoff Sheriff Country, and the Blue Bloods spinoff Boston Blue. I'm hearing a lot of spins and sequels. Boy, this sounds like movies these days, right? So, but they only canceled like one show, which says to me something interesting. Paramount's not going to maybe do a lot of new stuff. Illuminate had a list saying this third straight year, they put out recently saying the third straight year of declining number of series on television in all its iterations and expressions, broadcast, streaming, cable. Down for the third straight year. Yes, peak TV is well done, but well gone. I think it's only going to accelerate. If you're only going to do the same things over and over again and spin off the same things over and over again, at a certain point, do people stop watching, or you get like, no, I've been watching NCIS since before Origins was an original story, since time immemorial, right?
Yeah, I think it's an older audience. Maybe there's a bit of brand loyalty that you have to account
Comfort
for.
watching,
Right. But they're
like
not an
Tuesday
experiment.
nights at 8, we watch blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and don't move that schedule because I've got that booked in with my TV dinner. And that may be true. That may be true. Another reason why they desperately want to get Warner Brothers and Discovery, I guess. Actually, Discovery is to pay for Warner Brothers. The cash flow, those things still throw off. Anyway, probably a good time for us to wrap this puppy up. This is David Bloom with Next TMT Talks and Next TMT with my co-founder, Daniel Frankel, here on behalf of our partner, Media Play News, NPN, for those of us who can't handle that many syllables. Another week of looking at all things TV. And thank you so much for joining us. Stay warm. I was slightly harrowed by the shots of the Vanderbilt university men's basketball coach who was sleeping in his office, not just because he's an insanely dedicated and successful coach with one of the top ranked programs in America, but because power was still out through a big chunk of Nashville, including his house. Stay warm. Keep watching that TV. Let us know what you like, love, share, subscribe, follow us. We're going to be brilliant for years to come, since time immemorial forward. Anyway, thank you guys.